Chosen one, I know something about your future that will shock you and change everything. Don't skip this, because if you ignore this, you'll miss out on a profound shift God has specifically designed for you. I have something to say to you right now that will require more of you than most words do. Not more work, but more stillness. God talked about you more. Not in a general way to boost your morale or remind you of how valuable you are. He said a certain thing. He said, "You are the reason it ends." Now before your mind does what humble minds do, it goes to the exit and says, "That can't mean me. That's too much. I'm not ready to receive that." Help me understand something about the grammar of that sentence. It doesn't mean you have to carry the weight of the world because it ends. It doesn't mean that the outcome of God's plans depends on how well you do when you're under a lot of stress. That's not what it means at all. It means that something has been held, sealed, or kept in place for a certain amount of time. The person who was specifically told to finish that thing is you. You have been getting to this moment not because you are the most prepared or the most consistent, but because you have been getting there. And the way God chose for you to get here, the fact that you are here, is through the specific things you have been through. I want you to know what this phrase today means. It's not about the calendar. That's why I'm not talking about a 24-hour window that your chance will pass and you will miss it. There is nothing like what I'm talking about in clock time. There are two words in Hebrew that mean time: Chronos and Kairos. Chronos is the time that flies by. It's the time you plan or use up. Kairos is not the same thing at all. The appointed moment, the convergence point, or the exact coordinate in God's plan is when what has been planned meets. Who has been planned? Your name is on the Kairos appointment for today. So this message is Kairo time. You are the one who ends it. What did you feel when you heard those words? If something old, recognize them, even though another part of you was trying to keep you from hearing them. Write it in the comments right now. Type "The appointment is mine," because that kind of recognition isn't just a wish. And that's your receiver responding to the signal that has been trying to get to you for longer than this season has been hard. This message has 5 revelations. Everyone will hit you on a deeper level than the last. And by the time the last one comes around, you'll know not only that you are the reason it ends, but also how to step into that role and into the moment it has been preparing you for. You have been chosen. Let me start with the first revelation, and I want to give it to you as accurately as I can because it fixes something that has been costing you. You've been waiting for the last second. You already know this. You felt the quality of it, the sense that something important is coming up. Like how some seasons feel like they're moving towards something instead of just moving. Over the past few months, you've had this feeling along with another one. The feeling that you're not ready for whatever that moment calls for. What you feel like you're not ready is not information about how ready you are. This is the first revelation. It tells you about your receiver. Let me explain the difference. A receiver is a piece of gear. When a receiver is working at full speed, it can clearly pick up the signal. In response to the signal, it gives off the right amount of power. A degraded receiver picks up only part of the signal. It doesn't know how to react to the partial signal. It feels like you've received something important without being able to fully understand what it is or what to do with it. You have only been getting a part of the signal. There has been a real sense that something important is about to happen. It has felt like the receiver has been working below its design capacity because it doesn't know what to do with it. You have been taking the gap to mean that you are not ready. In reality, it has been the difference between how strong the signal is and how much the receiver can handle. The last moment is real. The meeting really does happen. Your claim that you are the reason it ends is true. What hasn't been real yet is the state of the receiver you're supposed to use to walk into that appointment. This is what changes everything. It's not moral to have a receiver condition. It's not a spiritual test of your faith, your discipline, your worthiness, or your spiritual readiness. It's a state of the body. And you can change your physiological state but not your moral failure. Snorts, the second revelation is also about the receiver, but it looks at them in a different way. When people walk through a long formation season, they usually start to think that the length of the season means something is wrong with them. That they haven't yet walked into what God had planned for them because they haven't had enough faith, snorts, feel worthy, or have a flaw in their character or submission that God wants them to fix. They also put in a lot of internal energy trying to fix things that aren't the real problem. The real issue is less complicated and easier to fix. Not because of anything you did wrong, but because of the formation season and the pressure it put on your whole body. Your neurological system is now less able to handle things. In the same way that a phone's battery dies faster when there isn't a good signal, the receiver's capacity dies faster during the formation season than it would normally. And the damaged receiver is what blocks the feeling of being ready. That's good news because it means you're not as ready as you thought. You're not waiting to prove your worth. You are just waiting for the receiver to be available at the time of the appointment, which can be arranged. You have been chosen. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site. You are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayer, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give and it will be given to you is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose. Join the conversation and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today. Join our community and see what God brings back into your life. Now I will give you the third revelation also. This one will ask you to let go of a story you've been telling yourself about what today means. Most people think of urgency, pressure, and a deadline coming up before they are ready when they hear today is the last day. And they deal with it the same way people do when they are under a lot of pressure. They add it to the weight they are already carrying and try to handle it along with everything else. As for today, in the language of divine appointment, it doesn't mean anything as quickly as clock time does. Kairos doesn't run out like Chronos does. God is not giving you a due date when He says today is the last day. He is giving you a way to get there. He's saying that the appointment is real. It's true. It's set. You've been moving toward it the whole time, but you have no idea what the name of the place is. It's not the stress of being behind that you've been feeling. It's the stress of getting close to something real. In this case, it means that your Kairos appointment is getting close enough to feel in your body. People thought that feeling was alarm, but it wasn't. It's really the feeling of having arrived. This is where the third revelation gets more specific. There is a reason you are and a reason it ends. It's not favoritism in the sense that God is picking favorites. It is a building. You have a certain set of experiences because of what you have been through, what you have survived, what you have learned in the formation, what has been taken from you and what has been built in you through the taking. This gives you the exact profile that this thing needs to be finished. It ends when you walk through the door because you have the key that unlocks the final configuration. This isn't because you are better than everyone else who has been waiting, but because you fit the profile that the appointment was made for. As you wait, think about what that means. There was no delay in the waiting. The waiting was getting together. Every year and every season, everything that was added or taken away was a part of the profile that the appointment needs. You haven't been held back from your destiny. You have been put together for it and the assembly is done. Today is the last day because the assembly is over. Not because a clock said so, but because you've turned into the story. What are you feeling now about how you understand what you've been going through? Type it in the comments. It's not true that you've reached perfection. When you say type, I am the profile. You are saying that you have reached the state that the appointment was waiting for. Now chosen one, I want to take a moment to bring someone into this message whose story sheds light on exactly what I am talking about. This pattern I have been describing is not new. It has happened over and over again in the way that God acts in history. The person I want to talk about knew what it meant to be. The reason something ended from the inside out. Her name is Esther. And I don't want to tell you her story as a story about bravery. Even though it was very brave of her. It's a story about an appointment that I want to tell you. It's true that Esther wasn't the most ready person in the room. It wasn't like she knew a lot about religion. It wasn't like she had more training than the other people around her. What Esther had was a profile, a certain mix of position, relationship, access, cultural intelligence, and a quality of character that had been shaped by the circumstances of her life. Circumstances that seemed to be against her, like being an orphan in a different culture or someone who doesn't naturally have power in a place where power is structured. It was all put together. When the right time came, Mordecai told Esther something that I want to bring right into this message. That's Kairos language. Who knows if you've come to the kingdom at this time? That's the language of the appointment talking to the person who was brought together for it in a human voice. Essa was the exact profile of that person, not because she was the obvious choice, but because that ending happened. And the fear, the feeling of not being ready and the knowledge of how important the moment was were not signs that she was the wrong person. It meant she was the right person, but she didn't know what she was getting herself into yet. You are in Esther's place right now. Not in a symbolic way, but in a real way. The very things that make you feel least qualified for the job are the very things that make you most perfectly suited for it. The profile is made up of the years that seem to be in the background. The seasons that seemed like preparation without deployment and the quiet building of depth through events that didn't seem important at first glance. These words from Morai are meant to speak to you right now. Who knows if you came to this place at this time? Fill out the form. Type for such a time as this. And that should be the last time you push back your appointment. To the chosen one. I need to name something that is getting in the way of the appointment. Knowing what the problem is will help you solve it. I'm going to call it the pattern of always tomorrow. When someone thinks about appointments in this way, they are always one step away from the moment they are walking toward. This is how it works. The meeting really does happen. It really does feel like it's close. Everyone who moves toward it is redirected by something in their system, something neurological, something in their mind's pattern that was set by the formation season. They move toward preparation instead of arrival, toward another level of getting ready instead of the step of actually arriving. The person who lives in the pattern of never tomorrow is not disorganized. No, they are not dishonest. They don't want to. They want things more than anyone else in the room. But every day tomorrow comes and goes. And every day the appointment is set for the next day. It's not because the appointment changed. It's because the receiver that should be able to tell the difference between this moment but all the others isn't working as well as it should. There is nothing spiritual wrong with this. The problem is with the receiver, and there is a specific way to solve the receiver problem. That doesn't involve working harder to get there. What I call the inadequacy argument is the second one I want to talk about. This is the case that the mind makes against the designation. It sounds like a big deal that it ends because of you. It sounds like something someone would send to someone who has clearly done something important. Someone who has more obvious proof that they are at the level needed for the job. And your mind, using only a weak signal from a receiver that has been damaged, makes a case against the designation that makes sense. That site has proof. That means that everything that hasn't happened yet is proof that the designation might be wrong. The argument of not being good enough is not a spiritual discernment. It doesn't move. It happens when the receiver picks up the appointment signal but can't process it fully because it's going through a system that can't handle it. When the receiver is brought back, the argument's content is lost. Not because you become more impressive, but because the signal takes the place of the static. Also, signal doesn't make the inadequate argument. Signal makes you feel sure that you know exactly where you want to go. If you've been living in a pattern of always tomorrow, type "I step into today" in the comments. This is because the declaration resets the pattern. In the middle of this message, chosen one, I want to give you something useful. Not an idea, a way of doing things. Because what I'm talking about needs to be understood from a conceptual to a practical level before it can make a difference in your daily life. I'm going to talk about what whole brain function actually gives someone who comes to a Kairos appointment. Not as spiritual poetry, but as a description of what can be seen and felt when a person's brain is working at the level it was meant to. Researchers have found that 98% of children and less than 1% of adults are in a state where the two halves of the brain are working together in sync. When this happens, three abilities become available that aren't always available. When the brain is in the partial sync state, the first is reading patterns at the level of intuition, which is what most people would call it. Being able to take in a lot of information and give a clear directional response without being able to explain the steps of reasoning that led to that response. It's not magical. It is the job of an integrated whole brain system to process information faster and more deeply than the sequential left brain process can do on its own. Being able to feel the appointment instead of just knowing about it intellectually is what it takes to recognize Kairos when it comes. The second is what I call receptive depth. This is the ability to hold a lot of information in a nonlinear way and let it sort itself out into a pure understanding without pushing it. This is the ability that lets someone stay in the present moment without being overwhelmed by it to receive the fullness of what the appointment has to offer without their system shutting down because of something too big. The third is called flow state integration by neuroscientists. In this state, action and knowing are not separate. The person going through a significant moment is not consciously controlling every movement. Instead, they are operating from a state of unified intelligence that makes them respond in the right way at the right time. This is the state where someone can be the cause of something ending without feeling the weight of that responsibility. All three of these abilities are meant to be yours. They're not accomplishments. They are the normal way for a whole brain system to work. And you haven't been able to fully access them because the receiver hasn't been in sync with them. This isn't because you haven't been working on them. Though, when that threshold is restored, these three abilities come back online, not as something new you've learned, but as something you already knew but hadn't known. Chosen one. I want to name something you may have been living with but not known how to talk about. It's going to be known as the Chiros blind spot. This is the exact difference between being sure that an appointment is real and being able to act like you are sure it is real. This is something that most people in the formation season you are in have been through. They know deep down that they are getting close to something important. But that knowledge doesn't show up in their daily actions, choices, or progress. There is a space between what you know and what you do. This space is the Chiros blind spot. The Chiros blind spot is not a matter of faith. It doesn't matter how much you believe. Nobody can truly believe that they are the reason something ends if they are not able to show up for their appointment. This is because the system that the belief is supposed to affect is not at the integration level needed for the action. This is why having more faith doesn't help close the gap. The gap isn't made of doubt. It is made up of pieces of damaged neurons. And having more faith is not the way to end it. To bring the system back together again is how believing turns into moving. There is another name I'd like to give you. You have what I call the threshold appointment, which comes with the title of being the reason it ends. Everything that has been put together is finally in place at this exact point in the architecture of a call. And the person walks from the preparation zone into the deployment zone, not in theory, but in their daily actions, the way they move, and the way they are present at work, in relationships, and in their obedience. Right now you are at the end appointment, not getting close to it at it. Something in you knew what the words meant when they said today is the appointment. You are the reason it ends. That's because the threshold is right under your feet right now. And the thing that stands between you and where you need to land is a receiver that needs to be working at the right level for the next step. I'd like to take you somewhere for a while. Take a picture. It's a certain morning not long from now. When you wake up, the first thing that hits you is a sense of inner clarity that you haven't had in a while. It's not exciting, not an experience of a peak, a state of being ready to go. This is the kind of readiness that doesn't need to be announced because it is the normal state of a system that is working the way it was meant to. You make the decisions that morning that your appointment requires without pondering them or going over the reasons why they aren't good enough for each one. Moving from the built-in knowledge of a receiver that can clearly pick up the signal that morning is yours. You shouldn't aim for it. What you were built to carry is written in your design specs. I'd like to take a moment to slow down and give you something that fits in the middle of this message. This is because the revelations we've been going over are not meant to go through you quickly. They're supposed to land, which needs room. You are the person this appointment was meant for because of 5 specific signs. This is not an appointment for validation but for calibration. so that when you hear a precise description of yourself, the receiver inside you knows what it's hearing and can act on it more clearly. The first sign is that you have been carrying something for a long time that you haven't been able to put down. It could be an emotion, a knowing, or a sense of what you are supposed to do, be or walk into that hasn't faded with the passage of time. A lot of feelings go away over time. This one hasn't. It looks different now. It has changed with the seasons, but the core of it, the knowing quality, has stayed the same. Instinction is not what that is. That is the signature of a name that will never expire. You have been close to what you were made for without fully occupying it. Yet this is the second sign. You were close enough to taste it. There have been times when you got a taste of what it's like to fully operate in your calling. And those events did not happen by chance. They were like a receiver picking up a small part of the full signal that was coming in the form of cruelty. They were sneak peeks, not delays. You can see previews of what's coming up in the form of calibration, which lets your system know what it is when it gets there at full resolution. Third sign, the people close to you have felt the change when you are fully present, even if they can't put their finger on it or wouldn't use spiritual language to explain it. When you walked into a room, it was different from the last one due to the quality you brought to the conversation. It went in a direction you didn't expect. You've been there for people during tough times, and the way the crisis felt changed because of you, not because of what you said or did. That's how the designation works in the field. It's not about you. It's about what you bring. You made it through things that should have ended the assignment. Which is the fourth sign, not necessarily in a dramatic way, but in the quiet math of everyday life. During some seasons, the total weight of what you were carrying was heavy enough to make you stop, but you didn't. Not always from a place of strong faith. There are times when it comes from something deeper than resolve. Because of the designation, the profile can't be retired before the appointment. It wasn't your strength to stay alive. It was the appointment that wouldn't let go of the person. It was built around. This message is the fifth sign. Your presence here, your choice to press play, and the fact that you felt like the title and the words were written just for you. Being able to recognize that is not an emotional response to spiritual language. It's the receiver picking up a signal that it has been set up to pick up. You didn't just happen to be here. Plans don't just happen to work out. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Koi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus's plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says this is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. Now, chosen one, I'd like to close the loop that has been open since the start of this message. I told you I would name a mechanism. You remember that I told you about something that was proven in the labs that most people in the spiritual community already know. I put it off until now because the answer is only useful when you fully understand the problem it solves. You now know what the shape is. You're the reason why it ends. The meeting really does happen. Putting together your profile is now complete. And the condition of the receiver is the only thing that stands between where you are now and walking into that appointment at full capacity. I'm going to show you 2 pictures of what a restored receiver does for real people before I tell you what it is. People who are like you. A woman from California said she had been sincerely getting ready for years. She had done everything she could have, every type of spiritual practice, prayer routine, and way of getting ready that had been suggested. She kept coming back to the same wall. It was clear what they knew. The way things moved wasn't. She said something got better after 10 days of what I'm about to describe. Something that had been blocked opened up. She said she no longer had to work hard to get clear. It got there. A man from Texas had been responsible for everyone else while his own mind and heart were tired. After 2 weeks, he said prayer had started to feel like talking into something that wasn't receiving. He also said that his mind was running on everything it was supposed to run on. Because he had been living in fog for so long, he stopped noticing that it was gone. That's because of what the group I'm about to talk about made. The Nobel Prize was given to Dr. Roger Sperry in 1981 for proving something about the brain that most spiritual people have never heard explained in this way. The brain was made so that the whole thing can work together. There are 2 hemispheres that work together. When that synchronization is working, the person is at the level of creative genius, deep receptivity, and integrated action, which lets them step into a big moment without having to worry about how to know what to do and how to do it. Neuroscientists in New York, led by Dr. Daniel Barron, worked for years to cut clinical-grade neural sync technology, the kind that is used in specialized medical settings, into an 8-minute sequence of sounds that were specifically chosen to affect the brain. 8 minutes hearing aids. Close your eyes every day. The smart switch is what they call it. It's not a brainwave item. It's not an app for meditation based on Dr. Roger Sperry's Nobel Prize-winning research. It is a targeted auditory sequence designed to bring the 2 halves of the brain back into sync. You don't have to do anything besides listen to it every day for 8 minutes. It works without you being aware of it. It brings back the abilities that come with being a receiver. Pattern recognition at the intuitive level, receptive depth, and the flow state integration that lets you know and do the same movement again. Not everyone should have the genius switch. It's for the chosen one who has been waiting for an appointment and is now crossing the threshold to enter it. The person who has been sincere for years and is now at the point where their sincerity meets their ability. They are ready to stop using the gap as an excuse not to accept the appointment. Not $599. The book is on sale today for $39 and comes with 4 free bonuses. A car map visualization, a grocery guide, a basic text on manifestation, and an infographic on habits. With a money-back guarantee that doesn't depend on anything, you can get every dollar back if it doesn't help 18,000 people like it has. If someone else sells a similar product, Barron's team has looked into them. How it works is what makes it different. It's in the description below and in the comment that's been pinned. That's where you go if your spirit feels at home there. Someone I haven't talked about yet about the season you've been in. Chosen one. Something that has been working in the background without drawing attention to itself and that costs more than it says it does. I'm going to call it the loss of appointments. This is what happens when someone is in a real Chiros formation season for a long time. The formation starts to block out the appointment. This doesn't happen because they failed spiritually in a big way. It happens because they are tired, disappointed, and make changes to their expectations that look like wisdom, but are really just the appointment getting smaller in their mind. It takes time for the appointment erosion to happen. You cut your timeline in the first step. The appointment was supposed to happen earlier, but it hasn't. So, you stop having a clear idea of when it will happen and start having a general idea of eventually. You narrow the scope in the second stage. Since the appointment was supposed to bring about something of a certain size, you start to quietly change the size of the thing that was supposed to happen to something that seems more likely. In the third stage, you stop expecting too much from your role. You stop seeing yourself, snorts, as the reason it ends and start seeing yourself as someone close to the ending, a supporting character who is there but not the main character. All of these changes make me feel humble. Each one is actually the appointment being talked down slowly by a system that is getting a weak signal. When a receiver is full, it doesn't cause appointment erosion. When the receiver is full, it doesn't see the delay as proof that the appointment has changed. Instead, it sees it as the end of the assembly, which is what it is. It's not enough to decide to believe bigger again, to stop the loss of appointments. That method works for a short time, but it falls apart when things don't go as planned. The reverse is done by putting the receiver back together. The signal gets to the receiver at the original clarity when it's working at the level it was made for. And that original clarity doesn't cause erosion. It makes you feel sure that you know where you're going and that the appointment hasn't changed. If you saw yourself in any of the stages I just talked about, please let me know in the comments. There has been no change to the appointment because the declaration is the first step in the reversal which you can now do. Chosen one, I want to give you one more breakthrough before we get to the last ones. This one is about something that may have cost you the most in a quiet way. This season, this is the sign. There were times when you felt close, like everything was falling into place, and the sense of the appointment was strong. The clarity was also the best it had been in a while. After that, something took place. It doesn't have to be something dramatic. Sometimes all that was left was the return of normal life. The weight and the circumstances that didn't work out. The feeling of closeness faded and you were left with the pain of having clearly felt the appointment and then having it become unclear again. Spiritual inconsistency is often used to explain that experience. Your commitment changes. So does the way you feel about being close to God. That's the explanation most people look for, and it leads to a cycle of self-correction, recommitment, and eventually the same pattern happening again. But it doesn't explain how it works in reality. The times when you felt clear, like when the appointment was almost here and you could clearly hear the signal, were not the highest points of your spiritual practice. There were times when the neurological conditions in your body temporarily lined up to make synchronization that was higher than normal. And the fog and distance coming back wasn't a spiritual retreat. It was the return to the level of synchronization that had been set during the formation season. In other words, clarity was always the rule. The clarity showed what the baseline would look like. Your system was designed to work at that temperature, and the fog is only there for a short time. What the receiver restoration doesn't do is make clearer sounds. Even better, it raises the bar so that being in clear reception, which used to be a rare event, becomes the normal operating state. It stops being a peak you visit and leave and becomes the ground you stand on. Now that the receiver has been fixed, that is what is available. That's why today's appointment doesn't need you to catch and hold a peak experience. For the appointment to be possible, the baseline needs to be set so that it can be received on a normal Monday morning during the week. The amazing things that have happened to you so far were not accidents. Those things were your system showing what it can do when the conditions are right. The conditions are now right as a permanent baseline, not just a temporary peak since the receiver has been fixed. The tool doesn't set up the meeting. The deal was made by God before you were born. You are not the reason the tool ends. God planned that for you before you got to this point in time. With this tool, the receiver is restored to its original state, letting you show up to the appointment as the person it was made for. The tool helps God do His work. It doesn't take its place. For those who felt it, the link is in the description and the comment that was pinned. It is still available. At the end of this message, that door doesn't close next. I want to keep walking with you toward what comes next because this message has 2 more revelations that are about what happens after the appointment, not during the appointment. What changes about the person who has been through it? Let this be the 4th revelation to you, chosen one. It's been in your mind that the last moment is something that happens to you, like a place where something changes and you come out changed. However, that is not all that a Kairos appointment is made of. You don't just show up for a Kairos appointment. It is something that takes place through you. The appointment starts as soon as you walk into it because the profile it was built around is now present and working. This means that the moment doesn't wait for you to feel ready. When the receiver who has the profile shows up, the moment is complete. It's not your job to be ready. Your job is to show up as the person who has been put together. And that showing up, the physical and spiritual act of moving into the space that the appointment has made, is what brings everything together. You can't walk into the last second and then be the reason it ends. You show up at the very end as the reason it ends. At the end, the designation is not given out. That's why the appointment was made. That changes how you move today. Because if the name is already true and you are the reason it ends, then it doesn't matter if you are ready when today comes around. The question is whether you will take on the role that today has already given you. That step is only available to you if the receiver condition states that it is. The inadequacy argument makes people hesitate. But a receiver working at the level of capacity the job calls for doesn't. It gives off the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly where they want to go because the signal they are getting is clear enough to help them get there. Dear chosen one, the 5th and final revelation is the one that ties everything together. I'm going to say it slowly because it's the most important thing in this message. You're the reason why it ends. This message has been building up to that point to help you fully understand it. There is one more part of it though that we haven't named yet. You're not the cause of something ending. You are the end of an error, a specific set of things that have been stopped, put off, or withheld. This task is finished for you in the dimension you were designed to work in when the receiver that was assigned for this moment is online and in place. In God's plan, this isn't about how important you are more than anyone else. It's about how you are the unique profile that opens a certain configuration. The key is not more important than the door because it opens it. The shape of the key is what makes the mechanism work. And the mechanism has been holding something that is ready to be let go. What was ready to come out isn't just what you've been waiting for. This is what the people who know you have been waiting for. What your family has been looking forward to. Find out what your area of influence has been holding as untapped potential. The profile you filled out works in more than just your life. It works in everything that your life affects. And the release is not personal. When the receiver is brought back and the appointment is taken over, it goes back generations. Here is one last picture I want to show you. Show you before I end this message. It's not months or years from now. It's right now. Since you were in the formation season, you can't see how things turned out from where you are now. From that spot, looking back, the map of everything that happened comes together into a clear picture. Every season, every seemingly delayed breakthrough, every quiet period, and every time it felt like the appointment was getting farther away instead of closer. The picture shows a person being put together, a receiver being set up, a profile being finished, and a moment, the moment we've been calling today, when the profile was finished and the person was put together. When you look back from that point of view, the question of whether you were ready will seem like it doesn't understand the whole structure. It was never a question of whether you were ready. It was always a question of whether the receiver would be online when the call came in. Today someone will answer you. That's how this message got to you. Picked 1. I want to give you something from this message that you can use today. Not a rule, but a habit. There is a certain way to hold the receiver that lets it start working at a higher level of sensitivity than it has been. These 3 keys will be what I call them. These aren't steps toward the meeting. They prepare you for the appointment so that it can find the best version of you. Key number 1 is what I call Kairos listening. Chronos is loud all the time. It means that there is always a sense of time pressure and a list of things that need to be done. Kairos is not talking. It doesn't yell. It shows up in the edges of a moment, in the way people interact with each other, or in the sense that something you just said or saw is more important than it seems. Setting aside time in your daily routine for the quieter signal to be heard is what Kairos listening is all about. It's not necessarily meditation, but paying attention to what's going on beneath the surface of time. Account trust is the second appointment key during the formation season. You were with a part of yourself that didn't feel whole. That is the right way to feel when you are being put together. But the putting together is done. This means that the profile you carry right now with the parts that feel like wounds, insufficiencies, and what was taken instead of what was given is the full profile, not the partial profile that needs more to be added. It is the full one. Profile trust is the practice of acting from a sense of completion instead of a sense of being missing something. The third appointment key is being a good receiver. It's been done before with the receiver you carry. It's not broken, but it's been used. And taking care of the receiver and making sure it can perform at the level expected of it is the most important practical thing you will do this season. Receiver stewardship includes what you eat, how you rest, how you protect the quality of your internal environment, and what you use to specifically get your brain back in sync for the appointment. And it's holy work because the receiver was made for something that needs it to work right. For those of you who felt confirmed during this message, the Genius Switch is one tool that can be used to get the receiver back into sync. It's in the quote and the comment that was pinned. Just 8 minutes a day is a small thing, but small things that restore the receiver's capacity change. What is available through the receiver? What is waiting to become available through yours is not small. I'd like to take a moment to talk to you, chosen one. Not because we are in a hurry to get to the end, but because the person who will take over after this message needs some time to settle down of the stillness that doesn't just happen in the mind, but in the whole person. Now, pay attention to something in your body. Pay attention to where the weight of everything you've been carrying tends to build up. Not to let go of it, but to be aware that it's there, that it's been there, and that you've been carrying it for longer than it was meant to be carried without rest. Now, I want to point out something else that goes with it. There is something beneath the weight that has not been erased by it. Something that was there at the start of the formation season is still there now. There is something that the formation has not shrunk but rather gathered together. Like heated water. The volume has changed, but what makes it water hasn't changed. That is the name given. That's the meeting time. That's the story. Because of the formation season, it is now more focused than it was at the start of the season. And the last moment is now. Not because the calendar said so, but because the focus is over and the next step is deployment. David, let me add one more person to this message. I also don't want to use David as the story of the giant. Even though the giant is important, I want David to be the story of the time between being anointed and taking the throne. While Saul was still king, David was chosen. This was a real title. It was a real meeting from the inside. The time between being designated and being sent out looked like everything except confirmation. Being hunted, hiding, having the throne set aside for you, but not being able to get to it, and being the reason something was supposed to end while living in the conditions of something that hadn't ended yet. All made it look like that. David didn't waste the time arguing about the name either. He didn't waste it trying to make the appointment happen on time. In the woods, he played music. When people found him hiding, he called them together. He led at the level that was open to him, while he waited for the level that the appointment was getting him ready for. The time gap wasn't a delay. The break was the last part of the assembly. And when the throne came, it went to David, who had been trained not only for the part, but also for the kind of kingship the people needed. The David interval is coming to an end. Dear chosen one, I want to end this message with something active. Not a conclusion but a commissioning. The person who reads this message and the person who walks out have different things with them. Before we end, I'd like to lead you through a guided mental activation. This is not a visualization meant to make you feel something. A certain kind of practice. What we've talked about today become more integrated at a level below conscious processing. Close your eyes for a moment if you can, just for 1 second. Breathe out a little longer than usual. Not forced, just aware. As you take a deep breath in, I want you to shift your attention from what's on your mind to the most basic things. You know, it's the layer below the stress, fatigue, and uncertainty. The level where the name is stored, where your name is written on the invite, where the whole assembly is done. I want you to find in that layer, the specific way of knowing that says I am the reason it ends. Not out loud, but in a quiet way. A coming back like water finding its level. From that level, I want you to look ahead, not to the specifics of the meeting since you are not in charge of those. In the morning when you wake up, you're already in place, already oriented, and already clear as a receiver picking up the signal it was made to receive. That morning does exist. This is not a hope. It is a meeting. And you are the reason it is set up. Pay attention to how it feels to receive that, not how it feels to achieve it. You don't make the appointment. You just show up when the receiver is online and the profile is in place. This is called arrival. In that state, I want you to say one thing in the space inside you where real declarations happen. Say this. I am the reason it ends. I was assembled for this. The appointment has my name and I receive now everything that the restoration of my receiver makes available to me in this season and in every season that follows. Open your eyes when you are ready and know that what you just declared was heard in the dimension where appointments are kept. Chosen one, before this message ends, let me speak something over your life. Something that doesn't belong at the end of what we talked about but at the start of what you are walking into. Let me begin with witness. This message is why you were here. You heard it. When something inside you wanted to talk, you let it even when the size of what it was saying was hard. That's not like that. This is how someone stands when they are already walking toward their appointment. It wasn't missed either. You need to put something out right now. Let go of the story that says you're not yet the person the appointment needs. Let it go. Let go of the timeline you've been using to compare your process to. Let it go. Let go of the need to compare your group to the groups of people around you who seem to be further along. Let it go. Let go of the weight that has built up over the years when the appointment seemed more like a promise than a reality. Let it go. Let go of the whole "I'm not good enough" argument. Let it go. Let go of the pattern of always being one step behind the arrival. The pattern of tomorrow. Let it go. Take in what is true now. You are the chosen profile. You were meant to be there for the appointment, not the other way around. The preparation of the profile that unlocks what the appointment was meant to release has been everything that has been put together in you. Every season, every formation, everything that has been taken and everything that has been built through the taking. You're not the one who's still getting ready. You are the one who has reached the threshold. Today is the last day and you are the reason it ends. Chosen one, I declare over you that the receiver is now being brought back to the level needed for the appointment. I say that the Kairos blind spot is getting smaller and the signal is getting stronger. I'm announcing that the building of your profile, which seemed like a waste of time, effort, and preparation that wasn't put to use, has now been shown to be the precise and planned creation of the person this appointment was meant for. It is my declaration that the generational release that your profile holds is coming into being. And what God said about you before you were born is being proven true in this season. If you get that right, the reason it ends is me in the comments. This group should back you up in the declaration. It's sealed and it stays that way. If you got this message at the right time, please send it to someone who is going through the same thing right now. The person who's coming together seems to be taking too long. They are close but don't know how close. It moves them into place because the word that confirms their appointment does more than just tell them. As soon as someone moves into place, everything that was set up around them starts to move. Take a moment to gently press the like button so that this gets to the next person who was chosen. And if your Kairos is happening in this community, stay close. There will be more. People whose spirit confirmed it during this message can use the link in the description and the pinned comment for the appointment to work. You have to spend 8 minutes a day with the receiver. Go there if you got the message. The meeting has your name on it. You are the reason it ends. Go ahead and walk like it. That's how it is. You are about to enter your divine future. But remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation or becoming a member of our community does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary where we discuss the Word daily and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry. When Jesus says, "Give and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall. Share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit our community now. Join the family and see your heavens open. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment. A place where divine abundance is not just a hope but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.